Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy looks to have re-signed with the WWE, and a bit of surprising news, and news that certainly took a lot of people off guard this week. I don't think anyone thought we were going to get an update about Jeff Hardy's WWE contract situation, because it was a bit of a non-story, really. There was so much time to go on it, but Jeff Hardy did, in an offhand comment, confirm this week that he has re-signed with the WWE. Now, during an interview with BT Sport on the show, he talked about his current run in WWE, how he envisages a future feud with The Fiend going down. I spoke about this the other day in a feud with Willow. Go check that out on the channel. But also during the interview, Jeff Hardy spoke about his popular entrance theme that he previously used to use in the WWE, called No More Words. And when talking about this theme, the current WWE Intercontinental Champion did announce that he had, in fact, re-signed with the company. He said, quote, "No more words. When we do get in front of a crowd again, that was part of me re-signing. I'm like, if we ever get in front of people again, I'd like to use no more words again, because I know y'all own it. Y'all." See, that's my great American accent coming out there. He said that was a deal for me re-signing. That's going to be the ticket when we get back in front of crowds. That's going to boost me even more to hear that music again. I think the Hardy Boys music is just for Matt and Jeff Hardy, not just for Jeff Hardy. Now, before I get on with the rest of what he said and all the other stuff, I agree with him. I think the Hardy Boys music is for Matt and Jeff Hardy. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. That's what it is. That's the people that you associate that music with there. So I think he's absolutely correct. Now, it was interesting that this news came out today, or whenever it came out, because earlier in that day, WrestleVote's very reputable Twitter account, they've broken 1 million stories before anyone else, so they're very, very credible. But they actually posted a tweet that said about someone not wanting to re-sign, or they'd made the decision not to re-sign with the company once their contract had expired. So it said, and I quote, "I can't reveal the name, as that's just not smart business, but I can confidently say that a certain WWE talent has decided not to re-sign with the company once their current deal expires," end quote. Obviously, people speculated that probably could be Jeff Hardy, and then subsequently the news came out that Jeff Hardy has in fact re-signed. I think that's a coincidence. If I'm going to be brutally honest, I think that's probably a coincidence. I would be very, very surprised if WWE and BT Sport decided that they were going to look at WrestleVotes and just go, let's drop that now, because that interview would have been done weeks ago as well. So I don't think, before anyone jumps to conclusions, which I know pro wrestling is jumping to conclusions, that was the case. I don't think that is the situation there. So Jeff Hardy is currently the Intercontinental Champion in WWE in his 5th reign after beating AJ Styles for the Intercontinental Championship prior to SummerSlam on SmackDown. Now, with this new news that Jeff Hardy has re-signed with the WWE, it would lead one to question, what's the situation then with the Hardy Boys? Are we ever, at this point, going to see Matt and Jeff Hardy tag up again? You look at the ages of both of these guys, they're both in their 40s. Matt is obviously older than Jeff, and Matt Hardy openly spoke about when he went to AEW, "This is probably my last contract. This is probably my last big run in a major professional wrestling company in the ring." Obviously, he's got a lot to give behind the scenes, but this is probably it for him. And now that Jeff Hardy has re-signed with WWE, and Matt Hardy isn't going back to WWE anytime soon, are we ever going to see him tag up again? Now, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter said, quote, "Yeah, so that pretty much, the Hardy Boys as a tag team, I don't want to say never, but we're probably talking years. I don't know if it's a 3 or 5 year deal, but generally WWE contracts these days are all 5-year deals. So that's a long, long time. So he's not going. His contract was coming due for a couple of months. The Hardy Boys contract started on the same day and was supposed to end on the same day. But what happened was obviously they tacked so much time onto Jeff Hardy's injuries on. There was a long gap between the ending of both men's contracts. There was actually some time tacked on to Matt's too, but Jeff was obviously injured a lot more in the last couple of years, so he had more time tacked on." And I think what's important there, and what Dave Meltzer is pointing out, is that, yeah, there is a lot of time now that Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy can't team together. If anything, it's more likely that they tag once again in WWE than AEW, because I think Matt Hardy's deal with AEW is probably like a 3-year deal. AEW gives out 3-year deals, and like Dave Meltzer said, WWE gives out 5. I don't know if Jeff Hardy's a 5-year deal. It might be a 3-year deal. But we're not going to see the Hardy Boys tag up for a long time. And at this point, if I'm going to be really honest, if at this point, I'm not massively disappointed with that. Because you think of how often we did see that over the last 5 years or so. We have seen it a lot. We saw them tag up in Impact. We saw them tag up in Ring of Honor. We saw them tag up in WWE a lot. They came in as a tag team. Maybe it's time for them to go their own ways again, right? We've seen it. And the whole point of when they came back to WWE was they wanted to right the wrongs of how they left the company in 2009 in Jeff Hardy's case, in 2011 in Matt Hardy's case, 2010. They wanted to right those wrongs, and they wanted to end, the Hardy Boys run in WWE, and they did that. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why Jeff Hardy said, you know what? I'll stay with the company. I don't need to team up with Matt Hardy again. And obviously the frustrating thing there is we won't see the Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks in AEW, which I think a lot of people wanted and thought they were going to see at one point. But these things happen. These things happen. It's just going to be one of those forgotten things or dream scenarios in professional wrestling, unfortunately. Support for WrestleNews 365 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Now, Manscaped, for all of my UK fans out there, Manscaped just launched in the UK. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have gone for years and years and years without using the right tools for the job. But now you can be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing product. But it's not just limited to all of the great fans over here in the UK. This offer goes worldwide, so all of my friends over in America and around the world that are listening to this offer still does apply for you. You can still use our code. But I've got to tell you a quick story first. Now, there have been so many times, right? I'm a guy. You gotta groom down there, fellas, right? That's the most important thing. You gotta keep yourself trimmed. You gotta keep yourself proper. And a lot of the time, I've been guilty of this, of using the wrong tools for the job. I've had incidences, I'm not afraid to say it, where things have been nicked, snagged, or in fact cut down there because I wasn't being careful enough and using the right equipment. Now that just shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You don't want to be worrying about cutting yourself down there. Do you know how painful that is? I can tell you, it hurts quite a lot. And I wish and hope to God it never happens to me again, and it won't happen to me ever again because I'm using Manscaped products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. Big statement, but it's absolutely true. They have just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. It's also available around the world as well. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. So those cuts and snags that I was telling you about before are a thing of the past. And let me tell you, when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes so you can get a longer, perfect shave. And not only that, you don't want to be cutting yourself and trimming yourself all over the bathroom, getting hair all over the place. That's just disgusting. The lawnmower has a waterproof technology that allows you to groom in the shower, so no more mess. And one of the coolest features, one of my favorite features about the lawnmower is the LED light which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming experience. So you can shave longer, you can shave more precisely, and you can shave in the shower. What more did I need to tell you? They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show off your mower loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. So, if you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. Yeah, you heard me right there. 20% off and free shipping. All you have to do is use the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. Make your testies their besties. That's 20% off and free shipping. Not only are you getting 20% off, you're getting free shipping as well with the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code 365wrestle. Your balls will thank you. Now, what I will say about Jeff Hardy re-signing with WWE is that I was very, very surprised by this news. I really was. And if the funny thing was is that I just recorded the video about Willow coming to the WWE, and facing off against The Fiend and how that would work out. And I said in that video that I didn't think Jeff Hardy would re-sign with the company because of the schedule and all of that kind of deal. And then he re-signs with the company. So good for me. That really worked out well for me on that one. But I was surprised. I thought that when he was done with this contract, his current contract with WWE, I thought he would be gone. I really did. And the reason why is because Jeff Hardy had said pretty much that. He said that when his contract came up, that was it. This was going to be his final run with the company. I remember back in April when he made his return from injury and he was doing those interviews on WWE Backstage and the like, he spoke very much as if this was it. He said, I'm straight, I'm off any legal issues and I'm off any drugs and anything like that. I'm healthy, I'm not drinking, I'm sober. That's it, I'm giving it a go. And he spoke about this was his final run. This was his final run, and he listed opponents he wanted to face: Roman Reigns, The Fiend, etc. And that this was it. This was the last big hurrah for Jeff Hardy in WWE. And bear in mind as well that Jeff Hardy had roughly 20 months added onto his contract. Dave Meltzer mentioned it there. He had a long time added onto his contract for a variety of reasons. His original contract would have expired in March 2020, the same time as Matt Hardy's, because they both made their debut in March of 2017 at WrestleMania 33. But because of injuries and other issues when it comes to substances and legal issues, WWE added about 20 months on to his original deal. So his contract anyway, not this new one that he's just signed, but the previous contract would have expired at the end of 2021 or possibly even later than that, because he had surgery on his shoulder, he had surgery on his knee, in addition to the other issues, and that kept him on the shelf for a long time. So when you look at all of that, there's a lot to break down there, really, because he's re-signed this new deal with the company almost 2 years before his contract was due to actually expire with WWE. That gives you a very strong indication of how badly WWE wanted to keep Jeff Hardy. And during a time where earlier this year in April, WWE released like 20 or 30% of its roster and its employees and its agents, producers, etc., they re-signed a guy with nearly 2 years left on his current contract. That's a big deal. That is a massive deal for WWE to do in the current climate. Now, we don't know obviously the terms of the contract, but even in this climate right now, there's no way that he isn't getting a pay rise or at the very minimum the same terms of his current WWE deal. Now, the reason why I say at the very minimum the same terms is because Rey Mysterio, obviously, when he was out of contract, and he had been out of contract for a while, he was a very rare case in WWE that he was working on a handshake deal. His deal with WWE expired in the spring, and then during that whole time of around May, right, when he had the eye injury, then the eye for an eye match and all of that stuff, Rey Mysterio was without a contract. That whole deal of him getting the eye injury back in May after Money in the Bank was to write him off TV in case he didn't re-sign with the company. So during that time, he was negotiating, and negotiations were tough. And during that contract negotiations with the WWE, Rey Mysterio, he wanted a pay rise. And even though WWE and Vince McMahon really didn't want to do it, I think they eventually did cave in, and they did give him a pay rise because he has signed a new deal. And obviously there were other factors involved there, his son becoming a WWE superstar. But also you have to factor in that AEW, they gave him a very good deal too. And if you've seen any WWE negotiations over the last 2 years, if AEW offers you a deal, WWE will offer you a higher deal. So I think that was the case when it came to Rey Mysterio and his contract. So there was a lot to be surprised about here. And I think also part of this surprising nature of this deal, it kind of came out of nowhere. It really did. There wasn't a big announcement. There wasn't WWE.com posting a story. There wasn't anything. It just came out of nowhere. It was in an offhanded comment by Jeff Hardy during an interview with BT Sport about his entrance music. Usually, a signing this big and Jeff Hardy re-signing his contract, usually something would be announced somewhere. Now, WWE Backstage isn't a thing anymore, and it could have been announced on there previously, but even if it wasn't a WWE thing, usually it would get out to the wrestling sites and the wrestling journalists or somewhere, or Sports Illustrated would pick it up, or something. WWE would say, go to Forbes and say, oh, announce that Jeff Hardy has re-signed, or go to Bleacher Report and say, Jeff Hardy's signed a new deal with the company. Nothing like that happened. It was very, very quiet, which is why I think a lot of people were blindsided by this. Like, we heard nothing about it, nothing at all. And the reason why we heard nothing about it was because Jeff Hardy's contract expiring at this point of time wasn't even a thing. If you spoke to anyone about Jeff Hardy's contract status, everyone knew the situation. Jeff Hardy's contract was meant to expire in March of this year, but because of his surgeries, because of his issues, they had about 21 months added onto the contract. That takes him till the end of 2021, so he isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So everyone will just assume that maybe when it comes to the end there, maybe they'll discuss a new contract. Not right now. Not right now. So it did take a lot of people off guard. And there was a lot of discussion, myself included, of did he mean when he re-signed with the company back in 2017, or does he mean a new deal? Like, what's going on? So it looks like this happened a while ago as well. This isn't something that was new. It looks like he may have re-signed during those Performance Center shows, which I think is quite interesting because you look back at those Performance Center editions of SmackDown when Jeff Hardy returned, he was a very prominent figure during those shows. So maybe you can look at it as Jeff Hardy was happy with the position he was in at the time. WWE made him an offer that he couldn't refuse, and he signed up then. I remember that report that was released a couple of weeks ago where they had the internal listing of the top babyfaces on the show, and this was prior to SummerSlam. Braun Strowman was still the Universal Champion at the time, so it was like Braun Strowman number 1 babyface, and Jeff Hardy was listed as number 2. So Jeff Hardy's obviously in a featured, prominent position on SmackDown. He's won the WWE executives and officials back over. That is, legal and personal issues are behind him, and Jeff Hardy will always be a valuable commodity to WWE. So he signed with the company. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And the reason why, again, I was very surprised by this is because in previous videos, I'd said that I didn't think Jeff Hardy would re-sign with the WWE, not only because of the way that he spoke about this being his final run, etc., but one of the major reasons why I didn't think he would re-sign with the company was because the WWE schedule is, and maybe was, too much for him, and I think even he would probably say the same. And the evidence is there. The last 2 years, Jeff Hardy has had multiple surgeries, and obviously he had substance abuse issues as well. Possibly they could stem from being in so much pain of, obviously, the style that Jeff Hardy has worked for over 20 years now is brutal. That has to take a toll on the body. It has, in terms of injuries, in terms of addiction. And Jeff Hardy just can't keep that relentless 5 nights a week schedule up. The days of Jeff Hardy wrestling 5 nights a week on WWE live events, I think to me and to him and to everyone just isn't feasible anymore. His body can't handle it. So prior to the pandemic hitting, I would have said the chances of Jeff Hardy re-signing a contract with WWE are minimal because he just can't do that schedule anymore. He couldn't do that schedule in 2009. He left WWE in 2009 in a real bad shape and injuries, substance abuse problems because of that schedule, because of how much pain he was in from doing that schedule, wrestling his style. So he couldn't do it in 2009, let alone in 2020. But things have changed. 2020 is, as I don't have to tell you, is an insane year because the pandemic has fundamentally changed WWE's business model at this point. WWE previously, and has been for however many years, was a live event business, and that's just not the case anymore. WWE's live event business has been dying for many years now, but Vince McMahon would constantly say, I can fix it. He said to shareholders, investors, I can fix it. We'll get our live events back up and running. They weren't making as much money as they previously had, but they were still a good source of revenue, but they were going down every year. But for the last, I would say, at least 3 or 4 years, everyone, insiders, outsiders, anyone looking at the business from a financial point of view, everyone has basically said, in this modern era, you don't have to, and you probably shouldn't do the whole 5 live events a week deal. That shouldn't be the case anymore. It's not needed. The body can't handle it, and like I said, it doesn't make money like it used to be, and it's not even the primary source of revenue anymore. You don't need it to be profitable. You don't need it to make money. And AEW absolutely proved this when they opened up, and this was prior to the pandemic. AEW doesn't run live events. AEW runs their TV and their pay-per-view tapings, and maybe in the future they'll do the occasional tour, maybe one in the States, maybe one in Europe, but this is very infrequent. They're not a live event company. They're a wrestling company that does TV. They don't do live events, but that's it. And yet, in their very first year, in their first year of existence, they were profitable. Why? Because of their television deal. And now that's the same with WWE. For years, but especially when WWE signed their new television deals back in 2018, when they signed the deal with Raw with NBC Universal and they signed the deal for SmackDown to go to Fox, WWE has made their money and is profitable because of television rights. That's the main source of income there. Live events has just been another revenue stream for so many years, but a dwindling one. So that business model of, we have to run 5 nights a week to make money so the company succeeds, that business model is archaic. It really is. Now, because of this pandemic, live events in WWE, they're a thing of the past. And in actuality, there was a latest round of WWE releases over the last week or so. And during those releases, pretty much all the live event employees were released from the company, which you hate to see. You hate to see anyone ever lose their job. But Vince McMahon at this point, I think he's realized that live events are done. He even said during the last investor call that they're probably getting out of the live event business. So the whole live event model that WWE has ran for since the beginning of time is done. It's done. It's not happening anymore. So that changes things. That radically changes things from a WWE superstar's point of view. That changes a WWE superstar's schedule from 5 nights a week, taking bumps, traveling to cities, because sometimes it's not even the bumps, it's the travel. Going from one city or one state to another 5 nights a week, that's insane. And then you add on the taking bumps, it's just too much. That schedule has changed from 5 nights to 1 or maybe 2 nights. That's a massive difference, and in some cases it's in the same place. At the moment in the Thunderdome, they're just going back and forth. They're in Orlando every week. That's a huge difference. That is a schedule that Jeff Hardy can work with, and that is the schedule that Jeff Hardy, if he went to AEW, or if Jeff Hardy went back to Impact Wrestling or wherever, that's the exact same schedule he would have there. So my long point here is that Jeff Hardy probably looked at this new schedule. He probably had discussions with WWE and Vince McMahon where they've told him, look, we're not doing live events anymore. And even if we do, they're so infrequent and we're getting out of the live event business. We're going to a different model. Jeff Hardy's looked at that and said, well, I could do that in AEW, but I'm getting the same schedule in WWE. He's probably looked at the money, and I'm sure WWE offered him more money because they don't want him to go to AEW. And Jeff Hardy looked at it, and he looked at the platform, and he's a featured guy on the most viewed professional wrestling program right now, which is SmackDown, and he probably said, yeah, that works. I can do 1 or 2 nights a week. I do like it here. I'm in a good spot. I'll re-sign. Now, obviously a lot was made about Jeff Hardy saying that the No More Words entrance theme was crucial to him re-signing, and in actuality, I doubt it was crucial. Everyone wants to see it back, and to be honest, I'm stunned it took this long to get the theme song back, but that's Vince McMahon sometimes. When he gets something in his head like that, they want to have your old music. No, they don't. Everyone wanted No More Words. They've wanted No More Words since Jeff Hardy was moved to a single star back in, 2018? When he first was drafted to SmackDown, and it's annoying that it's taken this long, but we're getting there. We're getting there. And having fans back with it will be great. It's a nice way to crown having fans back, and universally fans love that entrance theme, so it'll be awesome to see it back. And it's a great entrance, it's a great theme, and I love it. It was part of Jeff Hardy's biggest success in WWE back in 2008, 2009, so absolutely I want to see it back. But I doubt it was the major reason for Jeff Hardy re-signing. I doubt Jeff Hardy, in these contract negotiations said, first things first, forget money. Forget how long, forget how many dates, bring back No More Words right into the contract right now. I doubt he said that. I'm sure he said, look, can you bring it back? Make me a promise that you'll bring it back. But I don't think it was it's No More Words or nothing kind of deal. If it was, then Jeff Hardy is a ballsy negotiator. If that was one of his, he's like one of those diva actors that I want only red M&Ms in my locker room. I want No More Words as my entrance theme. So, but it's cool to see it back, and like I said, it was just very surprising to see Jeff Hardy re-sign with WWE. It certainly came out of left field, but here's to more success with Jeff Hardy inside the WWE ring. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on Jeff Hardy re-signing with the WWE? Do you think it's a good move? Do you think it's a bad move? Were you surprised by it? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys on these videos. If you've enjoyed this video, smash a like on the like button as well. Really does help us out here on YouTube, go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now. Or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.